After stops in California and Florida to start the season, Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, has arrived in Texas. Circuit of the Americas. Here, just 11 miles outside of Austin, is the host for races 5 and 6 of this 2024 season. And it's about time to go qualifying to set the grid for the pair of races we'll see here at COTA this weekend. As you can see, it's already a warm one here in Texas, 23 degrees Celsius. That's about 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Track temperatures approaching triple digits here early in the morning as well. We've already seen some cars on track from the various series that are part of the SRO America umbrella, but now it's time to turn the stars and the cars of Fanatec GT loose, looking to put down the fastest laps they possibly can to set the grid for the races this weekend. We'll start with the qualifying session for race number 1. Then after that 15-minute session concludes, it'll be qualifying for race number 2. Standing down amongst the cars there in the pit lane is our very own Calvin Fish. Hi, Calvin.
Certainly conditions here in qualifying this morning are going to be totally different to what we're going to see here this afternoon. I mean, right now we're talking ambience in the low 70s. That's going to scream up to the mid-90s by this afternoon. Talking to a few of the drivers down here about what that may do in terms of the balance shift in the race car. Obviously, they're going to have fresh tires on for this qualifying run here, and typically that induces a little bit more understeer. You get more grip balance towards the rear when you put fresh tires on in these cooler conditions. So a little bit of a guesstimate for all of the teams, but this is the sweet time from a driver's perspective. Getting out there on this racetrack, low fuel run, fresh tires is going to be feeling really good out there this morning. But certainly a great weekend here. Big car count here, 15 cars. We've got some new cars on the grid. Second car from DXDT with the second of the Chevys on the grid for Tommy Miller and young Alec Udell. So it's going to be exciting to see them go the rest of the distance in this championship. And also AF Corsa are here with the Ferrari for Toledo and Agostini, and they showed a little bit of pace here yesterday. So lots to look forward to in these two 15-minute qualies here this morning.
And Cal, a lot of these teams took the opportunity to test here at Circuit of the Americas just 1 week ago. How valuable do you think that might be, especially heading into qualifying?
Well, building that notebook is always so important. Building that notebook is so important, Ryan. So if you did get a leg up by getting some seat time here, and some of the teams tested it recently, it's just last week. So it's all relevant as you get deeper into the summer. Obviously, the racetrack changes with temperature. So I think for a lot of the teams, getting that notebook built last week will certainly pay dividends here today. But you know, the conditions are so cool here this morning. I think really it's a different racetrack in terms of what the team saw here yesterday. So it's all to play for. I think there's a number of these teams that are certainly going to have a shout for pole here today. Appreciate
it, Cal. Glad it's relatively cool for you down in the pit lane here this morning. We know it's going to get a lot hotter as the day progresses. A lot of teams doing the work, getting their cars prepped and ready to go. This session about to get underway here at Circuit of the Americas. What a place this is. It's 3.5 miles in length, 20 turns in all, and some of the turns here are modeled off of the very best corners around the world. A section modeled after Silverstone, a section modeled after the stadium section in Hockenheim, turn 8 at Istanbul Park but also some unique corners too that were designed into the topography of the landscape here in Austin, Texas. This is a track that has a nice mixture of high speed as well as low speed corners, so it's always going to be a case of teams compromising their setups. You're not going to be fast everywhere around this track, so where you choose to focus that setup to get the speed, that's going to be an interesting storyline to keep tabs on throughout the course of this weekend. Beautiful morning here in Austin. This is one of the teams here that has undergone a lineup change since we saw them last. RS1, which made its series debut for the season back at Sebring with Trent Hidman and Spencer Pumpelly, as was the plan. Trent Hidman remains with the team, but now young Jake Peterson slots in alongside him, and that car is now designated a Pro-Am entry after running in the Pro Class at Sebring a couple of weeks ago. Really cool livery on this car. Jake's an interesting young man studying music at Cal Berkeley, and every time we've seen him, including at the Indy 8 Hour last year, those cars have had some really neat liveries that are awfully fun to look at, and we credit them for the creativity. There is a look at Jake as he rolls out for his first qualifying session in a normal Fanatec GT event. took part in the Indianapolis 8-hour at the tail end of the year last year, but that qualifying goes a little bit differently with 3 different drivers involved over multiple sessions, including a Super Pole as part of the Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli. Not a lot of racing experience for Jake as he steps into this seat, but he's going through a crash course here this year with programs in GT4 at IMSA as well as in Carrera Cup North America, in addition to what he's doing here in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. A couple of stalwarts of the championship right here, of course, ST Racing and Wright Motorsports. ST Racing with that BMW coming through, driven by Bill Auberlin. At least that's what timing and scoring says. I think that actually should be Varun Choksi driving that car, unless they've elected to go with the alternate strategy. That's something maybe Calvin can check on for us. If you're just joining us for the first time this year, but you followed this championship in the past, previously you'll remember that by regulation, in a Pro-Am lineup, the Am part of that pairing would qualify for race number 1, the Pro would qualify for race number 2. That is gone now, and the teams can designate driver 1 and driver 2 at their own discretion. We've seen the Regulator Racing team do something different than the rest of the paddock over the course of this season so far. Of course, this car we're talking about here with Auberlin and Choksi is in the Pro class, but the rules are still the same. You can elect to have either driver qualify and start race 1 if you would like. And as we've seen, thanks to the Regulator Racing team, there are some strategic benefits perhaps to making those strategy calls. In fact, it paid off in the form of a podium at Sebring just a few weeks ago for that team within the Pro-Am class. No need to roll the strategy dice with this squad. They have been super quick from the word go. Wright Motorsports, this number 120, Adam Adelson and Elliott Skier. Right now, it should be Adam Adelson behind the wheel. He comes up quickly behind one of the DXDT Corvettes. That's Scott Smithson in the Pro-Am racing, Pro-Am class entry, I should say. But as Calvin mentioned, they are joined this weekend, and they will be for the rest of the season too, by a Pro class car with GM factory driver Tommy Milner and Alec Udell, the youngster who's slotting in alongside. Really excited to see Alec get a chance at this level to show what he could do, and he'll be qualifying that number 63 car here in this session. So as mentioned, this is the 28, Choksi and Auberlin. We'll see if we can get confirmation as to who's behind the wheel. This is the quickest car on track here thus far, still very much in the early stages, but if you're looking at sector time, sectors 1 and 2, this car owns both of those sectors in terms of the best time set so far, using up all the curbs in this triple apex right-hander that seems to go on and on and on forever, modeled after Istanbul Park's Turn 8. Then into turn number 19, very high speed, high commitment corner. And now the crucial final corner on the track, turn 20, back onto the pit straightaway once again in the run up the hill into that famous turn number 1. So, if timing and scoring is correct and Bill Auberlin is in the car, he goes to P number 1, 2:04.714 the last time by. Adam Adelson has put a time in, but as we saw, that was hampered by traffic, so not a representative lap time. Justin Rothberg does turn in a pretty good lap on his first time of asking at a 2:06.382. He'll continue to build on that as we watch this ST Racing car make its way around Circuit of the Americas here in the early going. And again, purple in the opening sector for this car. But as we watch, we've got a new car to the top of the leaderboard. That's the AF Corsa Ferrari making its season debut here with Riccardo Agostini. Not necessarily a name that many will know here stateside, although he did race in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America a handful of years ago, but has done a lot of racing in his native Europe and Italy, specifically Italian GT, where he's a multi-time champion in both the sprint and endurance formats. Had a really promising open-wheel career too, where courtesy of his performance in Italian F3, he actually got a chance to test a Ferrari Formula One car several years ago. So a very, very quick driver, and he's the quickest thus far. Although, as I say that, he's supplanted at the top of timing and scoring by Philip Ellis in that Regulator Racing Mercedes. Again, Philip Ellis and Jeff Burton electing to run the alternate driver strategy with Ellis starting and race number 1 and qualifying for race number 1, while Jeff Burton will finish, and the inverse will be true looking ahead to race 2 tomorrow. But this car looks poised to reclaim the top spot. Look at these sector times here from Oberlin. He was purple in both. That just went away because Agostini just took away the middle sector, and he's trending very positively here as well with under 9 minutes to go in qualifying for race 1. Was pretty aggressive with track limits there at the exit of the final corner. The stewards will take a look at that from this ST Racing BMW. The fact that we did not see that car go up on the leaderboard might be an indication that it had exceeded the track limits and that lap did not count. So now we turn our attention to Ricky Agostini here. He shares this car with Custodio Toledo, who's done some racing here in SRO America previously in Pirelli GT4 America. Has been running with AF Corsa and Ricky Agostini over in Europe in Le Mans Cup. Brings the program stateside, and Agostini immediately goes to the top. An impressive debut thus far as he slots in not just with the best lap in class, but the best overall lap here in the early going. As mentioned, Philip Ellis, rapid driver from Switzerland. He's won 3 out of the 4 IMSA races he started this year, including 24 hours of Daytona, 12 hours of Sebring. Picked up a dramatic win at Laguna Seca last weekend, and now back with this team, coming off of their best performance of the season back at Sebring a couple of weeks ago. Let's see what Ellis can do. He's been on pole for every race he's qualified for thus far this season here in Fanatec GT. Right now, P2, but only by 0.3 of a second, so nipping at the heels of Agostini here at the moment. As we talked about, it did look like Bill Oberlin was flirting with track limits, and as a result, that lap last time that was trending to be for the pole does not appear to have stuck, but this lap could if he can keep it on the racing surface as it's defined by the race stewards. Again, flirting with the track limits there in 19. How about turn 20? This is where it looked like he might have run afoul. That is much smoother this time. There's the timing stripe, and it was a third sector that was not quite up to par, so he does not improve, in fact. Oberlin still in 4th overall, 2nd in that pro class, behind the debutant Alec Udell. DXDT Racing showing very, very well, and right on cue, here is the 63 Corvette. Looking to be a new personal best here for Alec Udell. Let's check the time. Also giving up some time there in the final sector. Very interesting. Saw that as well from Oberlin on his flyer. Udell with a lot of experience in a short amount of time. Graduate of Clemson University, mechanical engineering student several years ago. Came up through Spec Miata Racing into the GT ranks. He's raced GT3s before, back when the series was known as Pirelli World Challenge. But it's been a little while. Most of his racing has been done in Europe in the last few years. Looking right at home. In fact, his co-driver, Tommy Milner, who is a GM factory driver and in fact did most of the testing and development work on this GT3 Corvette. Tommy was super complimentary of Alec and how quickly he was able to get up to speed in this car with limited testing. And we're seeing that on display at the moment. He's on provisional pole within the pro class, still behind the top 2 in the Pro-Am ranks. Agostini, Ellis, Udell, Oberlin, Mars. That's the top 5. Impressive qualifying for young Luca Mars, who is still very, very new to racing at this level. Looks like perhaps a little bit of traffic ahead with Justin Rothberg in the Turner Motorsports BMW. It does look like Justin might be on the pace, so that should not hinder Udell too much. Alec had a full season planned in IMSA this year, but that program was cut short, and it kind of left Alec without a whole lot on his calendar. And when this opportunity came about it's cool to see that the driver that he was supposed to be driving with in IMSA has continued to support him. That tape roulette you see on the side of the car, just over the wheel well, the back of that machine. That sponsorship kind of carrying over from the aborted IMSA program, as Udell still sits third, about 4/10 off of Agostini's pace-setting time. Looking to see who might be on a good lap. Jake Peterson is on a personal best, at least through the first couple of sectors. Same for George Kurtz. Somewhat quietly down in 9th, but 4th within the Pro-Am class. And Ellis, another one to keep an eye on. That's why our cameras have found this number 91 Mercedes from Regulator Racing. Personal best first sector, personal best middle sector. Only needs to find 0.3 of a second. Look right there. He's just 11 thousandths off provisional pole through sector 2. Just one more corner to negotiate here. Could this be a pole lap once more for Philip Ellis? Blitzing to the line and does not have enough pace to supplant Agostini at the top. He comes up just 3/100ths of a second short. Agostini, in the meantime, doesn't look like he's on a flyer at the moment. Still time, though, for a couple more laps as he comes down the front straightaway. Yep, he, in fact, came into the pits on that last lap, and that's interesting because if you do any work to the car in the pits, you lose any laps set before. If you followed our coverage in Sebring, you may remember that ST Racing with Neil Verhagen elected basically to do that on purpose. They sent Neil out in his qualifying session on a set of scuffed tires, came in, took those tires off, therefore negating that lap, sent him out on a set of stickers, and then with one flying lap, he was able to put up a time fast enough to secure the pole. Not quite sure what the A, of course, his strategy is here for now. It does not look like that time has disappeared, but he is back out after spending some time in the pits, and right now going just that little bit quicker. Look at that, personal best sector 1 by 33/1,000ths of a second. Adam Adelson also looks like he could be pushing to jump up the leaderboard somewhat with a personal best opening sector, currently 7th overall. But at the bottom of that pro class, which is a bit of a surprise, second sector from Agostini, not going to be good enough to improve, and quite possibly he knows that he doesn't need to push too much more. As mentioned, Adelson has had a good opening sector here. He's about 1.5 seconds off of the outright pole, but relative to the class pole, only 1 second behind Alec Udell. Although he too gives up some time in the middle sector, so perhaps the Pirelli tires have been pushed to the point where the sweet spot has been exceeded. Looking for that single lap pace at this stage might be a bit difficult on the used tires. We've seen remarkable durability from the Pirellis over the course of this season, where deep into the race or deep into a qualifying session, we're still seeing super fast laps, but there are quite a few high-speed, long-duration corners like this one that take a chunk out of the Pirellis, or any tire for that matter. Puts a lot of load, a lot of strain on the tires. As a consequence, we might see a little bit more degradation here than we have seen in previous stops along the way. That said, Adelson comes across the line with a new personal best, 2:04.725. That's not enough to move him up at all. However, he did cross the timing line in time for one more flying lap, so we'll see if he continues to push. One DXDT car in the pits, the other still on track, and the newcomer, Jake Peterson, is just behind in the RS1 Porsche. Peterson currently 11th and had a good lap going here. However, he's caught Smithson, and that might cost him some time in the final sector. We shall see. Peterson just needs to find a few tenths to jump Ross Schwest, who just took the checkered flag. That would be for the 10th spot. Across the line they come. There's the checkered flag. And Smithson improves. Peterson also improves. Big jump from Jake Peterson as he gets more and more comfortable with that race car. He's up to 10th. Really good final lap there for Jake, and that sets the table nicely then for Trent Hibman, who will qualify that car in the second qualifying session. Agostini still pushing. How about this? Purple middle sector. And he'll bail on it because there's no one who's about to threaten that time, but I do wonder what might have been possible had he stayed on the pace. There's the AF Corsa crew celebrating. Custodio Toledo down there in the fire suit, the white fire suit, left of the screen. He'll be qualifying next. That is the second team then in Pro-Am to take this alternate strategy of starting their pro, qualifying their pro for race number 1. Regulator Racing has shown that it is a viable option to secure at least a class podium. And if things had broken their way with yellows and things of that nature late in races, there's always a chance they could steal a win in some of these races. They, of course, have clearly studied that, and they elected to undertake the same strategy here. So, qualifying session number 1 is complete. Agostini, Ellis, Udell, Oberlin, and Mars are the top 5. That's a look at Colin Brown, the native Texan who now calls North Carolina home. He's already in that 0-4 ground strike by Riley Mercedes, ready for qualifying number 2. But before we get to that, here's a look at the results from the first session of qualifying. Agostini on debut. What a great performance. 31 thousandths of a second faster than Philip Ellis, depriving Ellis of a 3rd consecutive pole. Class pole in the pro ranks to Alec Udell. Great debut from him as well. Just ahead of Bill Oberlin, Luca Mars, Samantha Tan. Really good job to qualify 3rd in class and the fastest of the AMs in the Pro-Am lineups to qualify. That sets them up very, very nicely to go for a win. Adelson, Kurtz, Hardiman, Peterson, the top 10. Schwess, Smithson, Rothberg, Sabo, and Washington. That is the rest of the top 15 and indeed the rest of the lineup. Well, the story certainly in this qualifying session is the impressive debut from AF Corsa and Riccardo Agostini. Calvin, let's go down to you.
Yeah, certainly sprung a bit of a surprise here with AF Corsa grabbing this pole position. Riccardo chatting with Custodio Toledo, just getting ready for his run, but great job, mate. Has to feel good to put the Ferrari on the pole here.
Well, it's always good to be in pole position, right? Especially because it's my first ever event in SRO. So yeah, I'm very happy. I didn't expect to be there. I expect to be competitive, obviously, but we didn't know yesterday where the performance were from the other drivers as well. So I think it's great. It's good to start the weekend this way, and let's see what happened during the race.
Great battle with you and Philip for the pole there, but it seemed like you had an even faster lap going, then you bailed on it. Was there any more in the tank? Could you have gone a little bit quicker here this morning? I assume ideal conditions.
Yeah, it looks like we continue our battle from Daytona, actually. So, no, it was great. He's a really fast driver, so we were really there. I probably had a couple of tenths more to be even faster, but I think it's good. I think it's great.
Looking forward to a great battle this afternoon. Congratulations.
Yeah, let's see. Thank you.
Great to hear from Riccardo Agostini. You heard him reference that battle in Daytona. In the 24 hours of Daytona, Riccardo drove for the Triarsi Competizioni squad and had a really strong run in that race. That, of course, was a race that Philip Ellis and the Windward team came away with the win in, but they finished, Riccardo Agostini did, just off the podium in class there. And evidently the two found each other on the track there in Daytona. They find each other in qualifying. They'll start alongside one another later today for race number 1. Again, really impressive young man with a great resume when you look at what he's done in Italian GT, a 3-time champion across the sprint and endurance championships there. He's also won championships in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. He won the North America Championship in 2017, won the World Final in 2017, also a Carrera Cup Italy champion going back to 2015. So plenty of experience in sports cars and single-seaters before that, and we saw it on full display in qualifying 1. This is good to see the hometown team back in the series. That was a brief look at the S's Racing Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo. Running in the Pro-Am ranks here this weekend, they debuted as an AM class entry with Will Hardiman, and actually it would have been Will Hardiman and Adam Carroll. So maybe it was Pro-Am back then, and the idea was that it would shift to an AM class entry here with Adam Carroll stepping out of that car and Alan Metney stepping in, but the team elected to keep them in the Pro-Am class to have some cars to race against, and we're thankful for that. Of course, that team's been in the news a little bit over the last few days because the team principal, David O'Neill, was recently hired away by the Juncos Hollinger IndyCar team to help oversee their operation, and they're on track as we speak at Indianapolis. So a bit of a management shakeup for S's Racing on the cusp of their home event here in Austin, Texas. But now we turn our attention to qualifying for this race, race number 2. This will be tomorrow's race, and the car that will be on pole in the Pro class just coming through the shot. Alec Udell, super impressive in his qualifying. Tommy Milner is in the car now, but Alec Udell is out of that car, and Calvin has found him.
Alec, great qualifying session on debut with this team. How was the car this morning?
Yeah, I think the car was great. The Corvette 06 GT3R performed really nicely on the qualifying run. This is the first time for me to actually get a quali run, even a quali sims. That was awesome. I think the guys from DXDT and Brad Miller have come together on a great setup for us. So we're learning a little bit more every time we're out with this car on this Pirelli tire. So wonderful to be back in GT World Challenge here. Love the competition, love the people. This track's one of my favorites. It's a home track, so I'm like you said, big smile, a lot of learning for me, but coming up to speed quickly.
Early days, exciting start. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Big smile for Alec Udell, who has a great poker face, because I was talking to him in Long Beach. He was hanging around there. GT America, powered by AWS, was racing at the Grand Prix of Long Beach and was asking him, hey, sorry about your IMSA ride going away. Do you have anything in the works? Nope, don't know of anything. All right, Alec, well played. Respect for the poker face there. But thrilled to see it for him because he's a really deserving guy, quick driver, looking for a big opportunity, and I think he's found one alongside Tommy Milner, who will be qualifying that number 63 here. And Milner probably needs no introduction if you've been following sports car racing over the last decade plus, especially here in the States. But Milner does have class wins at Le Mans, 2 of them, in fact, to his name. He's won Daytona in class, he's won Sebring in class twice, and so much work in the development of this GT3 program on behalf of General Motors and Pratt & Miller. Great to see him in a race seat here this weekend, and indeed for the rest of the season. Watching Wright Motorsports now, this is Elliott Skier, who has been one of the breakout performers over the last year and a half in this championship, making a name for himself, racing against some big names in GT racing. The likes of Brian Sellers and Colin Brown, Robbie Foley, Bill Auberlin, and going toe-to-toe with a great deal of success as well. Skier with the first flying lap of qualifying session number 2, a 2:04.808, still a lot of time yet to be unlocked, of course, in this car and in this session. Trent Hinman gives us a brief glimpse of that as he goes to P1 with a 2:04 flat. A couple of Porsches at the top of the leaderboard. At least they were temporarily. Robbie Foley changes all that. The Turner Motorsport team now finds itself at the top with a 2:03.484 second lap, half a second quicker than Trent Hinman here in the early going. And for Foley and that Turner BMW team, had a big milestone 1 week ago, becoming the team with the most starts in BMW equipment all time, surpassing Team Schnitzer, legendary BMW team. That journey for Turner Motorsports started all the way back in 1998 with team owner Will Turner piloting his own car in this paddock, actually, back when it was known as the Speed World Challenge Series. Ran touring car races in a BMW, for a number of years. It gradually saw the program expand up to the highest levels of GT racing here in the States. And now looking to make starts number 558, 59, 60, and 61, representing the Bavarian manufacturer BMW. Really, really cool story for one of the stalwarts of North American sports car racing. A couple of cars to keep an eye on. You can see on the screen right there, Skier going a little bit quicker than he's gone previously. Not going to threaten Foley's time on this lap. Foley himself is going quicker, but the fastest driver on track is Neil Verhagen. And he has proven that that ST Racing car can be a rocket ship just about everywhere they turn up. Skier does actually surpass Foley, at least temporarily. We'll see how long that holds. Here comes Verhagen to the line. Verhagen goes to P1, 203.426. That's only 46 thousandths quicker than Elliott Skier. We're waiting on Robbie Foley. Here he comes. That's the second car in the shot. The BMW crosses the line, and he goes to the top of the leaderboard. 203.361. The top three covered by just 1/10 of a second here with 8 minutes to go in qualifying two. Oh, and that lap for the 120, the Wright Motorsports car, Elliott Skier, that was disallowed. Track limits exceeded in turn 19. Got a couple other cars that have been called for track limits violations having laps removed, including the 08 DXDT car, not this Corvette, but the other one, as well as the 63, which actually is this one. This one had its last lap thrown out for track limit violations, but we'll see what Tommy Milner can do here this time. Hard at work behind the wheel of that Corvette. Beautiful looking race car. Love what this DXDT livery looks like on the C8. Ooh, that was awfully wide. That might get the steward's attention again. Down the back straightaway for Tommy Milner, who's currently 7th, but the quickest of the Pro Class cars. Look at that, the top 6 all from the Pro-Am ranks. That's not a surprise because these are the top drivers, the pro drivers in those Pro-Am cars. And as we've said for years now, you take the pros in these Pro-Am class cars and you can put them up against just about anyone in North America. These are some of the best GT racers on the continent, if not in the world. Elliott Skier does have a clean lap the third time by. He jumps to third. That would be provisional pole for the Pro Class, and Verhagen takes provisional pole overall away the last time by. He goes down to a 203.308. 53 thousandths of a second quicker than the BMW of Robbie Foley. Then it's Hinman in the Porsche, Skier in a Porsche, and Colin Brown in a Mercedes. Choxy qualifying for race 2 here, so ST Racing electing to go a bit off strategy themselves, albeit in the Pro Class. Difference of the Pro Class here in Fanatec GT America relative to other Pro Classes around the world is there is a mandatory FIA silver graded driver in the lineup. Usually a Pro Class, it's open season, whatever driver you want to put in the car, you can, but here you do have to have a silver. Choxy fulfills that role for ST Racing. He is certainly lacking in experience at the GT3 level relative to most of those that are qualifying for this race, and therefore doing a remarkable job right there in 11th, ahead of the likes of Brian Sellers. Hop on board here. Long back straightaway, about 1 kilometer in length, 0.6 of a mile. Leads to the best braking zone on the circuit. Trent Hinman enters it there. Downhill plunge in the braking zone. Back on board with Trent. And into this triple apex right-hander. That's coming up here in just a couple of turns, actually. Skipped the stadium section, apologies there. Now into that long right-handed corner that takes a toll on the left-hand Pirellis. Under 5 minutes to go here in the session. Verhagen on pace perhaps to go even faster than he's gone before. Foley as well trending to have a decent lap. How about Hidman? He's on a personal best. Jake Peterson qualified this car earlier. And Hidman currently 4th with a 2:03.718. Number of cars already making the trip to pit lane. Zach Veach feeling like he's got what he could out of the car. Robbie Foley as well has come to the pits. Verhagen has gone quicker still. 2:03.137. That is 0.2 clear of the next closest car. And Verhagen stays on track, and he's got a personal best first sector working. He's not done. Brian Sellers improved a little bit on his last lap, and he's got another lap cooking right now that could see him jump up the order somewhat. He's in the 08 Corvette for DXDT Racing, currently down in 10th. But how about Verhagen? A 10th quicker through Sector 1 than he was the last time by. Elliott Skier had a good first sector, gave up some time in the middle. And just behind this is Verhagen, who continues to push, gave up some time in the middle sector too. Does not look like he's poised to improve upon that 2:03.1. Neat thing about this track, you have very distinct sections. Some are super fast, high speed, high commitment corners. Others, it's all about mechanical grip and traction off the corners, like what the part of the track that this car just came through, that stadium section. You're going to have strengths and weaknesses with these different cars, but all of them running relatively close together in the same performance window thanks to the SRO's balance of performance system. As you saw, Verhagen bailed into the pit lane. Elliott Skier currently 4th on provisional pole in the pro class. On the last lap, though, we're about to see, yeah, here we go. Well, I think we might have had at least the beginning of it, but it sounds like he had a bit of a moment. Able to gather it back up, and that is one nice thing about this track. There is plenty of runoff room if you have a mistake. It's a good place to learn. In fact, I talked to Adam Adelson and Elliott Skier about this yesterday. Let's look at it again. Whoa! 2 wheels off on the inside, and then those curbs. We hear race director Brian Till refer to them as sleeping policemen. They certainly get your attention when you bounce over them in one of these GT3 cars. He was up 4 wheels off the crown there on the last lap. It's not deterred Elliott too much. He had a personal best first sector. He's about the only one still out there and pushing, other than Jeff Burton down in 13th. Does not look like the middle sector, though, is going to be enough for Elliott Skier to go any quicker. And as it stands, still on pole position within that pro class. Tommy Milner's got the 63 up into 2nd in class. That would be an outstanding result for them in the debut for that 2nd car here this weekend for DXDT. Just the 2nd weekend that they've run that Corvette. Skier elects to stay on the track. That means he'll have one more crack at it. Coming onto the front straightaway at lap 0.8 off of the pole lap, at least the provisional pole lap from Neil Verhagen. So Skier's got some work still to do. Metney has a decent lap going. This is Alan Metney right here, his first start of the year. He's from Austin. A lot of track time here at Circuit of the Americas. And as you can tell, that car partnered with Mercedes-Benz of Austin. So this is a big, big weekend for this team that's based just down the road, a few miles away. Oh, big moment there for Alan Metney, big twitch. It was trending to be a good lap, but evidently he saw something on the predictive lap time that indicated it was not going to be enough to improve. So Alan Metney calls time on qualifying as the checkered flag comes out. Just a few cars still on track. Elliott Skier, Andy Lee for Flying Lizard, Ryan Sellers, and Custodio Toledo. Speaking of, here is Custodio, Brazilian driver for AF Corsa. This is the car that will start on the overall pole here today in race 1. And it looks like Toledo might be set to start at the back of the field for race 2 tomorrow. But this is, again, a team like Regulator Racing that is elected to play the strategy card and start their pro in race 1, their am in race 2. What that means is a driver like Custodio Toledo is being compared against even the pros in the Pro-Am class by and large, with the exception of Jeff Burton, who's on the same strategy. So you know you're going to be giving up pace early in the going, but if a yellow flag falls, especially in that second stint to bunch the field back up, and then all of a sudden it's Riccardo Agostini going head-to-head against the less experienced drivers in the other Pro-Am cars in the second half of that race, well, you've got a chance to get a really special result. So that's exactly what AF Corsa will be hoping for looking ahead to tomorrow. As for today, those teams on that strategy want the opposite to take place. They want a clean race for their pros to build a big gap that then their AMs can nurse to the checkered flag, and we saw that work for Regulator Racing at Sebring a few weeks ago. So Neil Verhagen on pole yet again. How many times have we said that since he made his debut in this series back at VIR last year? Really impressive young man from Connecticut. BMW factory driver paired with Samantha Tan, and Sam was super quick in her qualifying session too. They've got a chance for a really big weekend, it would appear, here at Circuit of the Americas. So for Hagen, Foley, Brown, the top three as well in the Pro-Am class. Skier on the Pro Class pole, then it's Hindman, Milner, Thomas Sargent. Good to see the Australian doing so well up in the 7th spot. Andy Lee, Brian Sellers, and Zach Veach, the top 10. Aaron Povoleto, Varun Choksi, Jeff Burton, Alan Metney, and Custodio Toledo round out the starting field, at least provisionally, looking ahead to race 2 tomorrow. Well, that sets the table nicely for what should be an exciting weekend, not just for Fanatec GT, but also for the rest of the SRO America paddock. Busy weekend as ever here at Circuit of the Americas. And it's about to get very, very warm over the course of the day today. But pretty good conditions to go qualifying here this morning. We talk about how strong Neil Verhagen looked in qualifying, Samantha Tan as well. Let's hear from Samantha Tan now with Calvin.
Well, 2 great qualifying runs here this morning for ST Racing. They come into this championship round second in points, only 2 points back. And Samantha, P3 for you, and Neil did his thing. Great battle with he and Robbie in that final qualifying run this morning.
Yeah, he did an incredible job. We've got a great car beneath us, and yeah, we're looking forward to the race later today.
This championship is really heating up. I mean, how much are you thinking about the big picture, or do you just take one race at a time this early in the season?
Definitely one race at a time. You know, there's so much that changes race to race. So, you know, obviously keeping in mind the big picture of the championship. But, yeah, definitely taking it race by race.
And it's going to get a little toasty this afternoon. What do you expect from the race car on a long run?
Oh, yeah, it's going to get really hot this afternoon. Even the humidity's like 90% humidity. So, I mean, it's not great for our turbos. But, again, we've got a really great car, and looking forward to it.
All right, have a great run today.
Thank you.
Impressive team, Samantha Tan Racing. We'll see what they can do starting from pole in race 2. A little bit further back in race 1, which is coming up your way at 12:15 local time here in Central Texas. We'll see you then.